So Horizon Zero Dawn saw its big release on Windows over the past weekend after being a smash hit on PlayStation 4 back in 2017. And as I've done before, although it's certainly been a while, I wanted to take a look at how the game runs on its minimum recommended hardware configuration. That is, what the developer, Guerrilla Games, claims to be the minimum system requirements. Does that configuration provide you the minimum performance to have a reasonably good experience? In the case of Zero Dawn, yes! Almost. Zero Dawn's minimum spec list asks for an Intel Core i5 2500K, 8GB of DDR3 memory, and a GeForce GTX 780. But as you can see, there is severe artifacting everywhere. And I'll talk about that more in a little bit. First, I want to cover kind of what my original intention for this video was going to be. I had seen how Zero Dawn performed on what Guerrilla said was the minimum, but I wanted to go lower. How many generations could I go back? How old could I go before the game no longer performed playably or at all? To find that out, first I would need the oldest hardware that could run Windows 10, that being the foremost requirement of Zero Dawn. Now, finding how old of a generation I could go back to and still run Windows 10 was a bit of a full-length side quest for me all on its own, so I'll skip to the end for you. Pentium D, which is just kind of really funny to me. Pentium 4 was just a bit too old and does not contain the functionality Windows 10 requires. It just got stuck in a boot loop trying to load over and over. So it's just kind of interesting to me that Pentium D does. So that's great, we've got Windows 10. So we'll just install Zero Dawn and see how bad it is. And nothing. Well, that's okay. Maybe Pentium D is just not good enough with its taped together cores. Well, why don't we start at the top of the stack and work our way down and see where we get there. We'll toss in a quad-core Extreme Edition QX 9650 and surely we'll be off to the races. Except we aren't. At this point I was thinking maybe Zero Dawn's failure to launch was a memory issue, that DDR2 was just not cutting the cheese on a modern game. I couldn't test this theory, however, because I don't have an LGA 775 motherboard that supports DDR3 memory. It's on the wish list though. So I'm feeling somewhat defeated now in my quest to run Zero Dawn on an older generation than Guerrilla said I could. Because the only way forward from here is to Intel's first generation core processors. Now, I have an i5 750 here, which is only one generation removed from the 2500K that I was supposed to have to begin with. And that was just too bad in my eyes. It would have been really fun to be able to benchmark all these old CPUs on another, newer game. But oh well. We'll fire up the i5 750 and have a look-see at how it doesn't work. I was surprised. Just surprised. Like, I know it's not validated by the developer, it doesn't have to be, but I don't think I've ever had a game that didn't even launch or work at all, even just one generation outside of the purview of their minimum recommendations. I knew it wouldn't run well, but I thought it would run. I thought there might have been something wrong with the game, like the files were broken or something and it was just failing to launch for some reason. Until I put the minimum system back together and it was back the way it was. Artifacting though, which I'll talk about that now. Now on my actual computer that I use for real, game runs fine. With the recommended system requirements, also runs fine. But on this lower end system, artifacts galore. What gives? Well, after some very rudimentary Google searching, it looks like it might be a VRAM issue. The GTX 780 only has 3 GB of video memory, which is a little tight in today's current market where even the mid-tier cards have 8. Which, as far as I'm able to test right now, seems like it might be the magic number for this game. I swapped out the 780 for a GTX Titan with its, at the time of its release, insane and nowadays rather mundane 6 GB of VRAM. But on Radeon's RX 480 from the recommended configuration and the RTX 2070 Super from my computer, both with 8 GB to their name, game is spotless. Sadly right now I can't test anything else with this game. I don't have a 900 series or 10 series card, so I don't really know if it's purely a VRAM amount issue or if the generation of the card is just too old to keep up with the game. So I'm not really sure what to make of this. Should Guerrilla not be suggesting that you can run their game on a video card with such little VRAM? Maybe. Does this PC port just have issues? Maybe. And I'm suspecting a little bit of both. This is obviously not some super deep or technical review into the game and its abilities by any means, but even when Zero Dawn is running perfectly fine, it does have some issues, especially with frame time hitches almost every few seconds. It just spikes and there's a hitch in your game and it's very noticeable. Which is why by the time I reached this point, I didn't really care to continue testing too much. The game was already not running correctly on the minimum recommended hardware. It already could not go back any further generations than the single one that Guerrilla said, which was just, I'm not mad about it because I don't expect them to make sure it can run on infinite generations backward. I just kind of hoped. I've never seen that before, where a game just wouldn't launch on anything older than what they said. It surprised me. And with the artifacting, any lower end GPU would also have the same issue. But I tested this 650 anyway just to see. It got 15 FPS on lowest details with 50% resolution scaling. So that brings us to the end of our journey in this game. What did we learn today? What is Horizon Zero Dawn's actual minimum requirements? Exactly what Guerrilla said on the tin they were. Hopefully you can understand why I feel kind of defeated in this video. But defeat has not deterred me. I will do my best to try and do the same thing that I tried here with other games, and hopefully I actually succeed more than just what they say the minimum requirements are. Microsoft Flight Simulator's coming out on the 18th. Maybe we'll see how that goes. So thank you for watching. Hopefully this video was entertaining. I'll do better next time, I promise. You can see next time, by the way, by subscribing. Makes things much easier. Want a brief reminder, by the way, of how crazy PC hardware can be? GTX Titan RX 480. $1,000 in 2013. $250 in 2016. Mere 3-year difference. Same performance. Almost exactly. In fact, this one might be a little bit better. It's nuts.